Allowance, and today I'm going to make with you a notebook. Look at this. In the kit you are going to get the cardboard pieces to make the notebook, and very nice, you get your notepad in it too. So what do we need to make this notebook? We need the kit, we need scissors, we need some nice bookends to finish the corners of the book. Then we need a rubber hammer, we need masking tape, we need Rinske book binding glue, and of course we need the glue tray, brush and roller. I already used these in a previous item we made. So let me show you what you get in the kit. In this kit we have, of course, instructions which you can read when you're by yourself, but you can watch my video now. You get the notepad, that's for when it's finished, and then you get all the cardboard pieces to make the notebook. And I can show you that this is going to be the outside cover of the notebook. Then we have inside covers to cover up the cardboard. And of course we need an extra part where we can put the notepad in later on. And we need an extra part to put some paper notes in. Let me show you that in the sample. This is how it's going to look like. So let's start. In my instructions, I tell you exactly what piece of fabric to cut for which part. So now we're going to start with the cover of the outside of the notebook, and I chose this beautiful fabric. And of course I would like to try and have the flowers in the front. So I cut the piece of fabric which we need, and I can put that on the side. And we can start actually directly with gluing the parts onto the cover fabric. Because in this kit we don't make a box, so you don't have to build anything together. We're just going to glue all the cardboard pieces to the fabric in a certain way, and then finally it comes together as a notebook. Of course, when you want the flowers in front, I would suggest you start with the front part of your notebook first. And I know it's going to be on top of the flowers. So I put these aside. I take my roller, I put glue on it, and I roll the glue onto the first A part of my notebook. And as explained in previous shows, you use paper underneath to not mess up your table. And you put your fabric in front of you, and now you can decide where to put your cardboard. If you want something in front very special and you are not sure if you're going to glue it in the right place, just like that, you can, of course, before you glue, you could have drawn lines with a friction pen or a pencil. I decided not to, so I put my part up there. So the second part we're going to glue is the back side of the book, which is going to be around 3 to 4 millimeters apart, away from the A part. And again, you apply glue to the part. You turn your page, and then we glue it, leaving 3 to 4 millimeters. Of space in between, like that. You turn over your work and you smoothly and gently touch your fingers and see that there's no bubbles or wrinkles in there. So, last part, the A part, last A part. And just like we did before, we are going to space 4 millimeters from the B part and put the A part to the fabric. Again, run on it with your fingers and be sure that there's no air left. So now I'm going to cut away the self edge. We don't need that. And what is important that when you glue your parts to the fabric, to the back side of the fabric, that you leave more or less 2 centimeters, which would be like 3/4 of an inch, seam allowance around the parts. As you can see, the glue sticks to your fabric, sticks the cardboard to your fabric directly. And you can just continue. We are now going to cut in a straight cut up to the cardboard corners, and your fabric will drop out. And you do the same on every of the 4 corners. So, once you've done these 4 corners, you can now glue the 2 longer parts to the cardboard already. And to do that, you will apply glue to the cardboard. Always apply your glue to the cardboard where possible. Try not to put on too much. With a brush, you will always put on more glue than with a roller. But in this case, you can spread it very nicely. And then from the middle, you will put it onto the B part. Run with your fingernails or something blunt into the spacing in between, and then continue on the right and the left side. And we do the same for the other side. First onto the middle part, and then again run into the spaces with your fingernails or something blunt and put the fabric on the parts. So this is the first part we've done for the notebook. Isn't that nice? The second 2 sides, we always do the same way for opposite sides. We are going to cut a diagonal corner, and then you're going to leave 2 millimeters straight, and those 2 millimeters are going to cover your cardboard corner, and then leave your fabric in a nice and diagonal way. So again, on the smaller sides of the cover of your notebook, we are going to cut a diagonal line in the fabric, which means you're going to leave 2 millimeters, which is 1/16 of an inch straight, and then diagonal. And the straight piece means it will cover up your cardboard corner, and then get your fabric in a diagonal way towards the middle. So let me show that again. We cut diagonal, leaving the 2 millimeter or the 1/16 inch straight. Once we did this, we can glue them to the cardboard. Again, where possible, we apply glue to the cardboard, and just on the diagonal side, I always like to apply glue to the fabric. And of course, we turn the page and we flip the fabric over to the inside of the cardboard. Now we do the same for the other side. So, and of course we turn the page. So now you can already see how your cover is going to be the cover of your notebook. The only thing we still have to do is cover the inside of the back of the notebook, because if that's not covered and we are going to put in the inside parts, it will not look nice. So we are going to make the hinge I would call it, from the notebook. To do that, you are going to cut a piece of fabric which is said exactly in your instructions. And when you have this piece of fabric, which will look just like that one, we are going to make a small seam allowance in the top and bottom part of the piece of fabric, around 1 centimeter. And we do the same on the other side. Okay, so we made the seam allowance at the top, which is about 3/8 of an inch, will be around 1 centimeter. And once you have folded these and checked that they are fit in here correctly, you can of course glue them together. So we apply a little bit of glue to the inside of the fabric strip. And press it, and we do the same on the other side. So now we're ready to glue that totally inside the inside back of the cover. And we just apply the glue, like I said before, to the cardboard where possible. So you can just run your roller over the inside part. Don't be afraid to get some glue at the top ends too, because you want it to be glued together as perfectly as possible. So also we apply a little bit of glue in the spacing. And now, starting from about 3/8 of an inch from the top of the notebook, and do the same at the bottom, or center it. And you glue it to the back side. You run through the spacing with your fingernail, or if you wish with a blunt item. And then you apply the left and the right piece of fabric to the cardboard. And now you have a perfect inside back in your notebook. So, one thing remaining to make your cover ready, and that's the metal ends on the outside of your cover. And you get these, of course, also from Creative with Cardboard. And I chose the antique golden ones for this notebook. And let me see. Your ends have a nice finished side, and they have an open side. The open side goes to the inside of the book. So therefore, you put the corner on the corner of your cardboard with a nice side to the outside and the open side to the inside. You take your rubber hammer and you hammer on it till it sort of closes around your cardboard. And you do this on all 4 corners. Of course, here again you can see it's very necessary for you to use something underneath, because it would damage your table if you do it without something underneath. So, now we have the ends on the cover of our notebook. Now it's time to make the inside. So we're going to continue with the 2 inside covers of your outside cover. One of the parts is going to be covered completely with fabric. So again, we need a piece of fabric, and it's in your instructions, the exact size. You leave your 2 centimeters of seam allowance around the cardboard. And the other part C, which I'm going to show you in the notebook we have ready. This is the part C we are going to cover completely, because you're going to see every piece of it. But the other part is underneath the notebook. Let me show you that. And you can see that you only see part of it. So we are only going to cover a part of part C. That's why I'm going to apply fabric to only the top part of C. To the first part C, we are only going to apply glue to the top part. I always make it myself easy to hold exactly at the point where I stopped gluing, and then I know exactly where to put my fabric on. You run around it with your fingers, you see that it is attached, and I turn the page, of course. At the same time, we're going to do the second part C, which is the part we are going to cover completely with the fabric. And we're going to put this in the middle of the part we prepared, leaving the same amount of seam allowance on every side. And with your fingers, you work away the bubbles and the wrinkles. Now, on these both parts, we are going to cut a straight line towards the corners, which makes your fabric corner drop out. Like that. Like that. And you will see, if you've done more of our kits, this step always repeats. There is always a part in your box or in your notebook or in anything you make from our kits where you are going to do these steps. It's always gluing onto fabric, leaving your seam allowance, cut out the corners, and then we're going to do two straight sides and two diagonal sides. It's always the same steps. And that's why it's not very difficult to do. All the corners out. And now we're going to apply glue to this and that side. That's my first two sides I'm going to glue to the back side of the part. And also to the second part. And now, of course, we have to cut the second sides diagonal, as we always end our second sides in a diagonal way. If any excess fabric, you can cut it away. So, starting at 1 millimeter, that's 1/16 inch, away from the cardboard, you can cut diagonal. And we do the same on this side. So again, we cut diagonal starting 1 millimeter away from the cardboard. That's 1/16 inch. And we do that because it's the weight of the cardboard, and it will cover up exactly the corner and it won't show any cardboard. So we do the same at the last corner. And again, we leave the 1 millimeter, let me show it like this, straight. Okay. Now we glue, again where possible on the cardboard, and on the diagonal sides I always like to put the glue on the diagonal cut, because if I have to glue it here I don't know exactly where my line is, so I glue the corner piece and the fabric, and then I turn it over to the other side. And I do the same for the next side. Isn't this fun how quickly you can make a notebook? One piece C ready, second one coming up. Here we do exactly the same steps as we did before. One side, second side, and the third side, in this case only the third side, we are going to cut diagonal. So again, when you are ready to do the second sides and you have to cut diagonal, you cut diagonal starting at a more or less 1 millimeter, which is 1/16 inch, away from the cardboard, which allows you to glue the corner side glue the fabric onto the corner side. So again, we cut diagonal, leaving the first millimeter from the cardboard corner straight. And now we can glue this onto the cardboard. We glue fabric to the back side of the cardboard. So that gives us 2 parts C. So we prepared the C parts, so there's only the D and the E part left for us to make. Let's do it. We are going to glue the E part to a piece of fabric we prepared. And in the instructions it will read that we try to leave a little bit more fabric on the top side of the E part, because that's the place where the notepad is going to be put in and out when you change it, so you don't want the threads to come up if they should loosen. So we're going to glue the piece of cardboard, part E, to the fabric, leaving a little more fabric on the top side. So we take our roller, apply glue to the E part, of course we turn our page, and glue it to the fabric. Now we do the same as what we did with the C parts. We are going to cut straight toward the cardboard corner. We do that on all 4 corners. Now we're going to do a bit different than with the C part, because now we are only going to glue the top side to the back side of the E part. So we apply the glue and we glue the fabric to the back. At this stage, we are going to leave it to dry, because we don't want this glue to come to that side. But these 2 sides are going to be glued together afterwards, leaving space in between for the notepad. So let's proceed with the D part. This is the little part where you can put in notes or things, and apply glue to where it puts D. When you cut your fabric, always cut it in the mirror image. So put your D on top of the fabric and then cut your fabric, leaving your seam allowance on the outside. So when you have to glue it, of course, you glue it on the D part, on the side where the D is written or stamped. It's your D part. This is clean. And now I turn it over and glue it to the fabric like this. And of course, I run with my finger to see if there's anything we don't want there. Here you can also cut away the self edge. We don't need that, it's always a bit thicker than the rest of the fabric. Then again, in this part, we are going to cut straight towards the corner, straight from the other side. And you will see your fabric will fall out. If your fabric doesn't fall out by itself, please cut the last threads. Don't pull, because they will leave little threadings, and that's not nice. And again, we cut straight to the corners. So at this stage, I tell you, we're only going to glue 2 parts. 1 and 2. And then it will go into your notebook, just like that. So we are going to start with the smaller piece. And now we apply glue to the bigger piece. As you can see, there's a little bit of leftover fabric here, and you can just cut that away. Like that. So this is going to be on your other C part. So let's continue with the prepared E part and the prepared C part. If you put these on top of each other and turn them over, you can see exactly how they come together. And the cardboards have to match on the bottom part exactly. When you have them together like this, you can glue 1 and 2 longer sides towards the cardboard. Do the same for the other side. So of course, I think by now you know, the last 2 sides will be cut diagonal. And now we have 2 1mm parts of cardboard together. So now you leave a little bit more straight. So that will be like 2 millimeters, which will be 2/16 or 1/8 of an inch. And it will cover up your cardboard corners. Just like that. And again, we glue the fabric to the other side. Again, here I try to glue on the cardboard where possible, but I will touch my angles with glue on the fabric. And we turn it to the other side. So you know me by now, and you know I like to play with ribbons and laces. And at this stage, I would actually like to put a little piece of lace over this part, just to make it look a little bit more romantic. So I'm going to glue that to this side before I attach the inside to the C part. So I apply some glue. And even if it shows a little bit when you applied it, the glue, when it dries up, is going to dry up clear, so you're not going to see it. So now I actually made the lace part of the fabric. You see? So now I'm going to put this part. Actually, we're doing the same as we did with the other 2 parts. I'm going to put it on top of the prepared C part. I turn it around and I watch it that it lies exactly in the same angle as the other cardboard part. I can put it on the table and I can apply glue to the first part. And just glue this part to the back side of the cardboard piece. Like that. And of course, we now have a diagonal cut. And again, just like with the part we did before, it is 2 times a piece of 1mm cardboard together, which makes 2 millimeters. And therefore you are going to cut diagonal and leave 2 millimeters of fabric straight, which is 1/8 of an inch. So again, we're going to cut diagonal, and at this stage we need to leave 2 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch straight. Maybe you can see it better when I put it here. This is 2 millimeters, which is going to cover up exactly the cardboard angle and then run nicely in a diagonal way. So once we've cut it, we can glue it. And we again apply glue to the cardboard part where we can. And of course the diagonal side, I always like to put the glue on the fabric. So that's the last part. So, as I said just before, I like to play around with bits and pieces and trims and laces. So I'm going to put some lace to the outside of the cover of this notebook. Therefore, I apply bookbinding glue. And again, if you would see some of the glue once you've put the lace on top of it, don't be scared because it will dry up clear. And of course, we have to attach it to the inside of the notebook. So now this is going to be the outside of your notebook. And if you open it up, we will have this on the left side, that on the right side. You see? And I'm going to glue these parts together now. And then we'll finish off the notebook. I'm going to apply glue to the back side of the left inside part. And you can use the roller if you want to. Just be sure you don't put the glue on too thin, because it's going to be the only thing that's going to keep the two parts together. It's the glue. And although it's a strong glue, be sure you don't put on too little. And I always like to run the sides with my brush and be sure there's glue on every side. When you put it into the inside of the cover, be sure it lays exactly between your middle corners. Turn the page. And in the time you need it to dry, you should actually push it down nicely. But like here, there's two parts of lace stuck together, which makes it a little bit thicker. You might use your masking tape to hold the parts together whilst drying. And to do that, you just take a small piece of masking tape and you can put it on the inside and then pull it over to the next side. You can do the same here. And then you just leave it to dry for a couple of minutes and you can remove the masking tape. And the other sides are drying up flat. So that's the next part we're going to glue in here. Here again, don't put too little glue on, not too much either, but just be sure you have glue everywhere. And again, here I run with my brush along the sides, making sure I have glue everywhere. And here too, you lay the part exactly in between the metal ends. Let's turn the page. And you press the part to the cardboard. Again here, because of using lace, it will be a little bit thicker on that spot. So you can, of course, use masking tape too, to let it dry together as flat as possible. And just let it dry for a couple of minutes. So after a couple of minutes, I can take away the masking tape, which makes your notebook almost ready for use. The only thing we have to do is from the back side of the notepad, you put it inside the part. And now it's ready to use. Have fun making this notebook.